Hey guys, today I'm talking about the miracle of just plain vinegar in and around the garden. Over 20 uses you can use around your garden to make it flourish, to make gardening easier, and just to make life a lot easier with plain vinegar. So let's go around the garden and I'll show you some things that you can use that will make gardening a pleasure rather than a chore. So you can use vinegar at its full strength for anything you want as a non-selective herbicide. It will kill any plant that it comes in contact with, and if it's a very large shrub, it's going to severely damage it. So you want to make sure that when you're using this, you don't get it on any grass areas or any plants you want to survive. But the cracks in my concrete always have this problem. I keep a labeled bottle of this in my garage, so I can just come out, hit it with a couple of shots of vinegar, and it does quite a great trick to getting rid of those plants growing in my driveway. Just remember to heavily saturate with quite a bit of vinegar so that you can get the root system and not only just burn the leaves. If you don't get the roots really saturated with your vinegar, it's not going to necessarily kill it. It may damage it or burn the leaves. So just make sure that in the driveway cracks, you give it a really heavy dose and use it at full strength. Now, if you want to order some really potent, I'll put a link down below in the description to some, I think it's 30, and then there's another one that's 45% vinegar. It's quite a bit stronger, so you need to be careful around your eyes and inhaling it. But it's really a lot stronger than the stuff you're going to find in your grocery store. The stuff in your grocery store will work fine, but if you want something that will really knock out some tough weeds, it's the 30 or 45%, very strong. And I'm going to show you real quick some poison ivy that is one of the hardest plants to kill. I'll show you what it's done in 24 hours. Now this is some poison ivy growing on a fence, and it's right on a property line, so I don't really have access to where this originates from because it's quite a bit far back. But each year it comes back to the fence. I just hit it with my vinegar, and as you can see, in a little bit more than 24 hours later, you see heavily damage on the leaves, and in about a week this will be completely gone. Now another great use for vinegar is to deter ants from getting into your vegetables. In these raised beds, I constantly have ants trying to build their nest here, such as this little nest right here. I've sprayed it a couple days ago with some vinegar. I just hit around the edges of it. The ants do not like the smell of vinegar, so if you spray it around your perimeter of your raised beds, it can help deter ants from starting a colony there. Once it's started, then that's another issue once it becomes well established. But if you get it early and you spray your vinegar in there, that's going to help keep ants out. Now, another thing you want to do as you're spraying your raised beds, it can alter the pH of your bed. So you want to make sure that you only put it away from the plants. You don't want to spray at the base of the plant because that could possibly kill the plant and alter the pH of the soil, which make the plant not near as productive as it would normally be. So you just want to kind of go around the edges and hit anything small starting beds before they get out of control. Now, before I move on to the next use of vinegar, I want to talk about weed killing in large areas. And I've got a video where I showed the mixture and the formula for doing such a very large area where I have a lot of problems with weeds, where it gets really marshy after a heavy rain, so I can't run my lawnmower over it, and it can become quickly overgrown. So I'll link that video up above that shows you how to kill a large area. And if you want to see the results to that video, go to my YouTube shorts and it'll show you the results of the vinegar on that area in 24 hours. A lot of people ask me for that because I didn't put it at the end of the video. I made a separate video that showed you what happened in 24 hours. So take a look at both of those. I'll put the link to the primary video up above. Now, a great way to clean all of your small gardening tools is to soak them in vinegar. And if you have a lot of rust, you want to soak them overnight up to 24 hours to remove that rust. But just for general cleaning purposes, about 1 cup to 1 gallon will do a massive job on cleaning off really dirty tools. Now, if you're removing rust, you want to add maybe a 50-50 mixture. If the rust is really bad, you may want to do it in pure vinegar, just the common stuff you get at your local grocery store, not the expensive stuff you buy on Amazon, which I'll put a link to that below for other purposes. But just the general stuff you see on your garden shelf, I think it's like 3 to 5% concentration. So anyways, you can soak these up to 24 hours to remove a heavy rust, or just about 2 hours for a general cleaning. So my wife is a fanatic for cut flowers, and often these in the springtime, around May, we have massive amounts of flowers from our magnolias, and they're beautiful. They're the southern magnolias. But one way to keep them fresh for longer, where they don't quite wilt quite so quickly, is vinegar. It's one of the secrets, but there's a 3-part component to that, 3 different ingredients that you add to the water. I'll take you back into the greenhouse and I'll show you exactly what the 3 parts are. Incredible smell. So the 3 ingredients for making your cut flowers last longer is sugar, aspirin, and vinegar. And this recipe is for 1 gallon. So we're adding these to 1 gallon. You'll take one, I believe this is not a baby aspirin, it's a 325 milligram aspirin. Just let it dissolve in the water. You don't have to break it up. You can, it won't hurt anything, but I just let mine dissolve in there. 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1 ounce of vinegar, just the standard vinegar, 3 to 5% that you get off your grocery store shelf. Mix it all up in a 1 gallon container, and then you can add your cut flowers to that. Also, another trick is to cut at an angle so you can maximize the surface area so it can draw up the nutrients. One of the things that happens in just plain water, it can't get the nutrients anymore that it needs, and it can't even get water well. So by doing that cut and adding these 3 things to it, it will help. And maybe even 1 drop, just a couple of drops in the container, vase, whatever size it is, maybe a half a cup size, we're talking about the vase. Put a couple of drops of Miracle Grow in there, and that can help boost its longevity when it can draw the nutrients from these 3 products as well. Now, another great thing you can use vinegar for is you can actually use it to test the pH of your soil. You'll just expose a little bit of your soil here. Then you'll pour some vinegar directly on it. If it fizzes, it may mean your soil is too alkaline or excessively alkaline. So it appears my soil is probably acidic, which is what most vegetables prefer. They like the soil to be a little bit on the acidic side. So of course you don't want to do this around any plants you're currently growing, and it can change the acidity of your soil temporarily. So after a few good rains, that might stabilize itself, and you can do some additives there to change it back to more alkaline if you need to. But that's another thing you can do, is you can test it for pH. If you want a traditional pH tester that I talk about quite a bit in other videos, I'll link one down below. But pH testing is really critical for your soil and all your vegetables that you want them to grow properly and give you a massive harvest. Another great use for vinegar is for cleaning your greenhouse. Now I have a polycarbonate greenhouse, which is basically a type of plastic, but one thing I would recommend is when you're doing this is to make sure you're wearing glasses, eye protection. I don't have a mask on because I would sound like Charlie Brown's teacher, but a mask, and also make sure you're wearing rubber gloves that won't allow the vinegar to get on your hands, because it can dehydrate your hands pretty badly. But it really works well. I'm hoping this is showing up on camera on cleaning the greenhouse. That looks like it did when it was brand new. Now, if your glass is heavily stained, or there's a lot, maybe some rust from some metal, I have wood, but if you have metal on your greenhouse and there's a little bit of rust there, allowing this soak for a few hours or even overnight and then coming back and cleaning is a great idea on glass. But be careful about polycarbonates, because it could permanently do some damage to it, because especially if it's a high concentration vinegar. So just remember, this is a great way to clean your greenhouse, interior and exterior, whether you have a large one like this or a very small one. Now, using vinegar to speed up germination of your seeds is another great thing to do. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to do this, but what you're going to do is you're going to take 1 part vinegar and 3 parts water, mix it up well, and then put your seeds into it for maybe 2 to 3 hours to soften up that outer coating of your seeds, and that will speed up the germination process. So that's another great thing that vinegar can do. Now, if you're having a lot of problems with moss, you live in a rainy area, or just moss is a problem for you, pure vinegar, and it's 3 to 4% concentration rate, will get rid of moss. Just spray it over the areas where you want to get rid of it, and your moss will disappear. Again, remember, this may change the acidity of your soil. Some plants will like it, some plants won't, but it will eliminate your moss once and for all. Now, this bamboo fountain sometimes gets an algae growth on it, and it has other issues as well. But one great thing to do is add about 1 cup of vinegar to it. You don't want to do this if there's any type of living fish in it or anything like that. But if you're just using it on something where there's not a living animal involved, you can spray the outside of it, and that will keep it looking cleaner. Be careful not to get it on your plants, because it will do damage there. But you can do this in other water features where you don't have fish, and you can also use it in a bird bath, but in a short amount of time you want to rinse it out and then add new water to it, but it will clean your bird bath quite effectively. If you want to know how to make this Japanese bamboo fountain, I'll put a link up above showing you exactly how to do it. But it's one of my favorite small water features in the yard, and it's relatively easy to put together. Now, as I just noticed, I got a little bit of vinegar on my hosta here, and I'm going to carefully mist this off and rinse it off before it has a chance to do any damage to the plant. So these solo sprayers work really well, but you have to be careful when you're using it in an area where you don't want to get on the plant. I'll put a link to these as well. I use these all the time, and they work quite great. I think I have 3 or 4 of them around the greenhouse, and I find all sorts of uses for them. Now, vinegar is also excellent for getting rid of slugs and snails, which can do a lot of damage to the various plants in your garden. And they also, if you know where they like to hide, which is generally in the daytime, they like to hide under things like boards, and you can spray into those areas with vinegar. Try not to get it on your plant. As I said earlier, this is in its full strength, and you can also use the solo sprayer to get in there and get possible places where they're hiding in the daytime. Slugs love shade in the day, and they come out in the evening and start munching on your vegetables. So that's another use for it, is getting rid of slugs and snails from around your plants. Now, if dogs or cats are coming into your garden and doing a lot of damage, vinegar also acts as a repellent towards them. You can spray a towel, maybe put some vinegar on there, and you don't have to put it in the soil. You just put it close to the edge of the plants where your dogs or cats are attacking your plants and trampling all over them. And that smell can be so potent it can drive the cat or dog away. So it makes an excellent way to repel pets that become pests. Now, a while back, I made a video on how to make a composter from a trash can. And one thing you can do is just give a light watering of pure vinegar on the top of your compost inside the can, and that will make the pH, change the pH to speed up the decomposition process. So making it a little bit more acidic will speed that process up and also aid in your garden overall. Now, I talked a little bit about killing weeds in the cracks in your concrete, but I have a massive amount of gravel paths, and they always have weeds growing in them. No matter how much, no matter what product I use, no matter how much product I use, there's just going to always be weeds in gravel paths. So using something like a mechanical sprayer. This one is battery operated, which makes it a lot easier. I'll put a link to one of these as well. But using a backpack sprayer like this can cover a large area, and you can eliminate those weeds that grow in your gravel path. And also using a higher concentration. Again, I spoke about that earlier. I put the link when I was talking about the weeds growing in the cracks of the concrete. So go back and watch that video if you want to see how to eliminate weeds in your gravel pathways as well. Now, an easy way to spread disease in the garden a lot of times is by ourselves, our own gloves, and we don't realize it. So soaking your gloves in a mixture of 1 part vinegar, regular grocery store 3 to 4%, to 3 parts water. Soaking them for about 15 to 20 minutes can kill funguses and bacteria that can easily transfer from plant to plant, and you don't even realize you're doing it until it's problems popped up and you don't know where it came from. So soaking your gloves is a great idea to do at the end of every day. So one of the best ways to clean these new polywoods, and this one is quite old, but it looks like it's still in pretty good shape, is to use your concentration of 50% water, 50% vinegar, and just give it a spray and wipe it down. If it's heavily stained, you might wait half an hour and allow it to bring up some of the dirt and dissolve it. But it really makes a difference if you just do this at the beginning of the season and end of the season, and it really makes your poly furnitures look a lot better, and you don't have to worry about damaging it or using strong chemicals that you're going to possibly breathe in. So yeah, the vinegar does have a strong smell, and there is a slight chance if you get it in your eyes or your lungs, it wouldn't be good for you. So again, eye protection, nose protection, and gloves that I've somehow misplaced. Now, in addition to your poly furniture, you can use this on concrete statuary. You don't want to use the vinegar in its pure form, just a 50-50 mix, and you can give it just a light spray, and that will keep some of the mold and algae growth off of it, and it'll look good as new, unless you want the old and antique look. That's what I like to do. I like to make it look a little bit newer and get rid of some of that moldy look off of it. Now, if you're having issues with fungal diseases on your vegetables and plants, you can use a 1 part solution to 9 parts water. Do a test spray in a small area, wait 3 days and see how it looks. If there's no wilting or no burning, then go ahead and do the entire plant. But that can help with fungal diseases on a variety of vegetables and other types of ornamental plants with the vinegar. So cleaning is the first thing I ever heard as an alternate use of vinegar, and it's from everything from kitchen linoleum floors to stainless steel sinks. But terracotta pots is another thing. Now, this pot is not new. It's several years old. It's been used for a variety of things around the garden. Had a lot of things planted in it over the years, but it still looks like it's in pretty good shape considering its age. But if you'll take 1 part vinegar, 3 parts water, and just wipe it down, that'll remove salt buildup and any other stains that might be on the pot itself. Now, increasing the soil acidity for acid-loving plants is a great idea with vinegar. You take 1 cup of vinegar to 1 gallon of water, mix it, and water it into the soil. You want to, as always, you want to do a test area. You don't want to do your entire garden like this, but just do a small test area and see the results over a period of 3 to 5 days and see how that works. Obviously, you don't want to use the industrial grade vinegar, the 30, 45, or even higher percentages. You want to use the standard grocery store amount, which is about 3 to 4% on most grocery stores. And that is great for most vegetables, which prefer the soil to be a little bit more on the acidic side. Now, you can also use the industrial strength vinegar, 45, 30, whatever you can find at your local store or order online. I'll put a link to this particular one I purchased on Amazon. But you can make a trap out of something like a mason jar, a small lid or cap off of something else, but just a small container. Put it near your vegetables where you might be having a fruit fly problem, and put it about half filled with vinegar and a few drops of dish soap to break the surface tension so that the fruit flies are attracted to it. They go in and they're trapped inside of the jar. If you don't have the dish soap, it won't be enough for them to break the surface tension, and they may be able to actually land on the water. So putting that few drops of dish soap in there makes a huge difference for trapping fruit flies and other insects that might be attacking your vegetables. So guys, I hope you'll try a few of these tricks and hacks to using vinegar in and around your garden and even outside of your garden. It makes a great cleaning product. Obviously, you don't have to have the 45%. You can just pick up the 3 to 4% off your grocery store shelf. But I'll put links down below to some things that are a little bit harder to find. But all the things that I use, I usually try to put them in the link in the description and give you access to them, whether it's Amazon or some other source. I try to make sure you have able to get them, because a lot of times I can't even find these at my local stores. So guys, I appreciate you watching and have a great day.